Hello, human peoples. You're listening to the podcast network of Gamefully Unemployed. To support us and gain access to great exclusive podcasts like Fox Mulder is a Maniac, Tom and Jeff Watch Batman, Star Trek The Next Futurama, and our latest show, Spiel Boys, head over to patreon.com/gamefullyunemployed. We do game streaming, movie nights with our patrons every Friday night, and you can even commission your own podcast about anything you want. Literally anything, within reason, and we have to do it. You are quite frankly out of excuses not to go visit patreon.com/gamefullyunemployed. That's patreon.com/GAMEFULLY unemployed, which is spelled like it sounds.
Cue the holiday music, the jingle bells.
The jingle bells, the Michael Jordan rocking around the Christmas tree.
Oh yeah. It took me a minute.
The Krampus. Hello, everyone.
My name is David Bell.
My name is Tom Ryman.
And we just watched The Christmas
Santa Who
Chronicles.
Fucks! Wait, what? What did you watch?
Santa Claus?
Live and in person. One night only.
Can you go ho ho ho?
I don't go ho ho ho. That's a myth. Christmas spirit's down 35%. Half the planet's not gonna get toys.
So if you brats don't get presents, it's not the end of the world.
People need Christmas to remind themselves of how good they can be. Wendy, you got so big.
Excuse me?
You know what I mean? Grown up big. Now, Wendy, we need a ride.
Can you call an Uber?
You think I can pay the driver with these?
He fucks so hard.
He fucks. Santa's breaking backs in this movie.
He really is. Okay, before we get started, I just shout out to our producers, Harris and Millie. Now, Harris and Millie are getting married this weekend.
Hey, congratulations, Harris and Millie.
On the 17th. Congratulations, Harris and Millie, on getting married, I assume to each other.
May you fuck as Santa fucks.
Yeah.
On your blessed day.
Yeah. May you thrust like jolly old Saint Nick. Yeah, had you seen this movie?
No. I hadn't watched it. I mean, I think we've covered it on Hypecast, both this and the sequel, but no, I never actually sat down and watched it.
Yeah, this is 2018. Good for the season. This is Russell Crowe. This movie was not what I thought
Dave.
it was.
It's Kurt Russell.
What? Oh God! Imagine if it was Russell Crowe.
I am. I'm telling you what, Dave. I am imagining Russell Crowe, and he needs to make a Santa movie immediately. He needs to make like dirtbag Kiwi Santa, right?
Yeah,
like
dirtbag Santa. Yeah,
running around New Zealand being dirtbag Santa.
It'd be amazing. Just do that. Was it Unhinged movie?
Yeah,
but
only Santa. He's driving a sleigh, and he's really trying to get his presents there, but somebody cuts him off in traffic, and he gets sidetracked for 90 minutes.
That would be amazing. But yeah, this movie wasn't what I thought it was gonna be. I'm kind of mixed about it. How did you like this?
I landed on liking this movie, but I am in the same camp as you. This movie was a little darker than I thought it was going to be.
Well, it wasn't. It felt like it didn't quite know the tone it was going for. And I really like the idea of it.
Yeah.
The idea of it being that these two kids, troubled teen and his daughter and his sister.
You're on a roll tonight, Dave.
I know, right? Their father died because he was a fireman, and he heroically saved some people or whatever.
Yeah, he swallowed some fire to rescue people.
Yeah, exactly. And their mom has to work nights as like as a doctor or something. I don't know if they specify.
She works in a hospital, but that's as specific as they get.
Yeah,
she's presumably a doctor or a nurse.
Yeah, and so it's Christmas Eve, and she's got to go. And the little sister has blackmailed her brother who stole a car, and she's like, "Listen, we're gonna stay up and we're gonna try to catch Santa on camera, or I'll show Mom the tape of you stealing a car." And they catch Santa in the act. They go outside to film him. They get caught in his sleigh, and they accidentally crash Santa's sleigh in Chicago. Mm-hmm. And then most of the movie is just Santa getting bailed out of jail.
Yeah.
It's really weird. Like
It's like-
the adventure they go on is like really odd.
It's like gritty Santa. It's like,
Yeah.
I mean, obviously it's in Chicago, so I kept thinking of Dark Knight. It's like they tried this movie, not gritty Santa. This movie is kind of grounded Santa a little bit.
Yeah.
And that's like the parts of the movie I enjoyed the most, where they sort of had fun with the mythology and the legends around Santa. And like, okay, like they sort of extrapolated it into, okay, well, how would, like the thing where he sort of MacGyvers together a police radio and he's like, well, I'm the world's greatest toy maker. I'm like, oh, that's kind of like a fun way to play with that.
Yeah. Then
yeah. It's like stuff, and like where he's basically like, he knows every single person, he knows everything they've ever asked for Christmas, and they work that into the very heavily into the plot, actually.
Yes.
I enjoyed, I thought that was like the cool stuff about this movie, and I thought,
yeah, he's like a reverse Pennywise. Instead of knowing the fears, he knows people's wishes.
and like the sort of dynamic with the family, like they're all. This was a little, I mean, it was done, really basically, but it was a little more than I expected necessarily from this movie, where like there's a genuine arc for each member of the family, and the movie is about this family. This is the first Christmas without the dad, and this movie is about them moving on, basically. And it's, it's not like super well done, but like I appreciated that was about something, and it actually kind of complete, like it doesn't, I wouldn't say it like sticks the landing, but like it lands and it completes the arc for all three of the characters, the mom, the brother, and the sister. I was like, oh, okay, Christmas Chronicles.
Considering how many Christmas movies are out there, I think it's fair to say that this is in the top 10%.
Probably, and also
quality-wise.
And also, just real quick, how stone cold generic The Christmas Chronicles is as a title. Like, this movie should have been called something else.
Yes, it should have been called Bad Santa, but they couldn't do that.
Yeah,
because they're referring to the fact that they're videotaping it. And I was like, well, then do a found footage Santa movie. Make it found footage.
That would be kind of funny. And they do a little bit of that. There's a couple of shots of that where I for half a second I was like, oh, is this going to be found footage? That's kind of an interesting idea.
Yeah. I think where this movie, so I agree with you about what works. I think the idea of planes, trains, and automobiles, but Santa is very good to me.
That's a fun
which is basically
idea,
like, we're trying to get back to Santa's sleigh. Santa is honestly kind of a pain in the ass.
Yeah, he is. Like, he's kind of a pain in the ass.
Yeah, and he's kind of a stinker. And we're trying to get back to his sleigh so we can save Christmas. That's all well and good. I think a lot of the execution needed tweaking, because I think some of this is just a series of bits. Like when he starts just singing in jail, I was like, what are we doing here?
Yeah, with fucking Steve Van Zandt.
Yeah. What is going on?
And a bunch of other actual musicians.
Right.
Like, obviously, Van Zandt's the most famous, but, like, everyone in that lockup is like, oh, these are all, like, people in bands.
Yeah,
like,
it was real weird.
Yeah.
One thing that I flagged, and this has nothing about the actors themselves, the way the kids are, it feels like they're in a different movie somewhat times. It feels like they're in, like, a Hallmark movie, whereas the Santa is, like, grittier. And I know they're not making an R-rated Santa, but... like, for example, the brother, I did not think they did the brother correctly. The deal with the brother is he steals cars. He's like this middle-class kid stealing cars, which it is true that like very rich kids tend to be more delinquent.
He's acting out because he's angry at his dad for dying. Like that, it checks out, but I do see what you're saying, but continue.
Yeah, and he kind of goes, and again, this is not performance, it's his lines. He goes from having to be like sweet older brother to like criminal older brother, and I think they needed to lean into it more. I think he needed to be like an Eddie Furlong type. I think he needed to be more of a little punk, a little shit.
Right, he needed to be a little bit harder to reach, and that's what Eddie Furlong was in Terminator 2.
Exactly. He needs to be just a little more of a rebel, because he's not like him stealing a car. I rewound it because I was like, surely that character didn't do that, because he's not, they're not giving the character anything to show that he would do that. And he kind of, and the reveal that he's like secretly writing to Santa would have been better if he was like really unreachable as a kid.
Yeah.
And like a real shit.
I want to not put a pin in that, but I wanted to unpack that idea. I don't think showing him stealing the car was necessarily a bad idea. It's just that's a huge offer right up front. It's like that's the first, we get like a montage in the beginning of the Christmas videos showing this young family as they have the boy, and then as the boy gets older, and then they have the sister, and then they get older, and then we get to the last Christmas before this one, which was the last one where Dad was alive. So like the first thing we see of Teddy is the older brother's name, is he's out stealing cars with his friends. That's fine, but like you sort of have to. That's a big offer to make. So you should have backed that up by doing all the things that we're saying. So I don't think that was necessarily a mistake. It was just
they needed to lean into it.
They needed to stay at that level. Yeah, because like when he gets home, his little sister is like, I videotaped you committing a felony. And it's like, why isn't he just beating her up and taking that
tape? Like, because he's a shit.
That's prison time on that tape. So like...
Yeah. You know what this movie needed? It needed a little sprinkle of Shane Black.
A little bit,
what I mean by that is, think about Last Action Hero, which has a parallel to this.
Yeah.
Where it begins with this really gritty situation for this kid, right? He gets robbed in his house.
Yeah, it needed a little more edge. But yeah, continue.
Yeah, it needed it to start with like, we have to go to the police station to bail your brother out.
Yeah.
And then that also reflects Santa in jail later. It needed a little more grit. And it doesn't have to be R-rated. It just needed to feel a little like the family situation at the beginning should have been a little more dire.
Right. We needed to feel, because the movie wants us to feel that this family is at risk to the point where they get into a fight over the videotape and they literally knock over the portrait and it splinters the family portrait, and the mom very pointedly looks at it and it's like symbolism. So like they needed to make us feel like this family was genuinely in danger of falling apart because they're not dealing with the loss of Dad. Yeah.
Yeah, because the idea, what we go into is like, it's like a scared straight for the kid, where Santa's now dealing, like, they do this really weird deviation where he runs into park kidnappers.
That was the funniest thing. Like, they abduct.
It was like, what crimes are you guys doing? I'm unclear.
What's really funny is, so the brother is through a series of circumstances finds himself alone in the park with Santa's magical bag of presents, and these three goons show up and they're like, hey, give us that bag of presents. And he's like, no. And like, give us that bag. So they take him back to their chop shop with their fucking gangster boss. And it's like, they're like, hey boss, we got this teen and his sack of gifts. Like, if you were a mid-tier criminal boss, like crime boss, like basically a franchise crime boss, running this chop shop, and your guys come back with a teen and a bag of presents, would you be like happy or would you be pissed?
Yeah, it'd be like, what the fuck are you guys doing?
This guy
steal cars.
Yeah.
Like, what's happening here?
Why did you guys drag a witness in here? Now we have to murder this teenager on Christmas Eve. But no,
he might have stuff in his bag, and it's like, so what?
So fucking
just
what?
Leave him alone.
Yeah, we're not stealing stereos, man. We're stealing $200,000 sports cars.
Yeah. It's really weird.
So, like the mob boss is like overjoyed, and then the elves get to come out and beat up all the criminals. But yeah, that part was really strange.
Yeah. And so it's that fluctuation where it's like kind of Disney movie, and then it'll have these genuinely fun, gritty Santa moments. Like the elves themselves are like these fucking minions, and I was like, what's going on here? Like,
yeah, they kind of look like lemurs.
Yeah, and it was like, what tone are you going for? And it's not entirely what it feels like. The movie isn't completely sure what it wants to do.
I noticed Chris Columbus was a producer. I'm not sure what other involvement he had. I don't know if like he was involved with the story, but that like sort of makes it make sense because he's done this sort of tone before, both well and kind of not as good. Because like obviously Chris Columbus did Home Alone, he did the first Harry Potter movie, he did Young Sherlock Holmes, which is like this, which is like this tone, but like airing further on darker side of that.
Yeah.
So like he has experience in this realm, but like he doesn't have a perfect track record in it. So like seeing his name in the credits, I was already sort of expecting kind of this weird tone.
Right.
But it just totally makes sense that it's like it feels like it's not like super drastic, but it does feel like there is a constant war of tone in this movie.
And sometimes I can't tell if they know what they're doing or not. Sometimes, I guess. Did the movie blame all wars on Santa not giving gifts? Did I catch that?
It blamed the Middle Ages on Santa not giving gifts.
But then he says, like, look up all wars. He sort of said, like,
he said,
remember the Dark Ages?
All the wars. I think he's referring to the Dark Ages, all the wars in Europe.
Okay. That's still messed up.
It is, yeah.
Because then you think about, like, okay, well, was, like, other wars also that? Are you pinning, like, human atrocities on Santa?
It's a weird...
And when you think about it, though... Yeah. Well, I was watching this with Hannah, and I was like, are they pinning, like, human atrocities on Christians not getting their gifts on Christmas? And then she was like, well, that does kind of sum it up.
Yes.
And it's like, oh, yeah, I guess it does.
Yeah.
So it works. It scans.
And most of the wars in Europe at the time were Christians killing other Christians for not being Christian enough or not being Christian the correct way or just over land.
But there's like little messed up things like that.
Yeah.
Like at the end, the ornament, I was just like, what the fuck? That was a real, like, I don't know what that's supposed to be moment. I guess spoilers. The kid asked Santa for his father back.
Yeah.
Which bummer letter that I'm sure Santa gets a lot of, honestly. And that's a real bummer.
Yes, that is a non-zero amount of letters that Santa gets.
Yeah, and he has to just sort of ignore them. But he gives him an ornament.
Well, no, apparently he just gives them ornaments. I
guess that when you look into the ornament, your face turns into your dad's face saying he's proud of you. And I was like, what the fuck was that? Like, is there an afterlife? Is that what we're dealing with?
I mean, magic clearly exists.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I mean, they have that scene earlier where Teddy and the little sister Kate are going to go look for I think they're looking for the reindeer at this point, or they may be they're looking for the bag of toys at this point.
Yeah. For people who, just to fill people in, what happens is the sleigh comes apart in the air. And so, again, a really cool idea, a really cool premise is that they have to keep going and finding all the pieces.
Yeah. They have to find the reindeer, they have to find the presents, and they have to find Santa's hat.
Yes. Which I guess is the source of his powers, but also isn't. And I want to talk about Santa's powers in a bit, but anyway.
So they have that scene in front of the church where they hear the Christmas carol and they both stop and are like, oh, this was Dad's favorite carol. And they have a moment where like the brother's sort of pathology comes out where he's like, Dad, like he's obviously he's acting out because he's mad at his dad for dying. He's like, I hate that Dad, he had 2 kids and a wife and he ran into a fire and got himself killed over people he didn't even know. And now he'd be ashamed of the way I'm behaving. And I just wish I could talk to him again so I could tell him something. And Kate's like, well, what did you want to tell him? And he doesn't answer. And then she's like, well, I see Dad in you. Like, I can see him in you. So, like, they sort of plant that idea so that at the end, when he gets the gift from Santa, where Santa's like, well, I don't have the power to grant your wish. This is the best I could do. He gives him this ornament. He hangs the ornament on a tree. He's looking at his own reflection, and his own reflection becomes his dad's reflection. And what he wanted to say to his dad was that he was proud of him. He was proud of him for being a selfless hero who died to save the lives of people he didn't know. And then his dad says the same thing back to him, which sort of heals the wounds that he was experiencing. So that was like, that seed was planted. It is weird when it happens in the movie.
The nature of the magic, it's more like Harry Potter magic then, where it's like, that's not his actual father coming from the afterlife. That's like
probably not, but we don't know. Like it's not clear.
We don't know.
Yeah, it's not clear.
Yeah, it's unclear.
It could just be him speaking to his own reflection, but like
true.
It's the catharsis he needed.
Right. Yeah, so Santa's magic. I guess my main question is this the game but with Santa? Meaning, did Santa set all this up? Or
I think so. Well,
or is he making it up as he goes along? Is he the Joker?
I think. Well, go ahead.
Well, just to explain to people what happens is basically he's like, I don't have my hat, so I can't like fly.
I can't fly. Is what he says. Yeah.
And so when we first see Santa, he's like turning into dust and going in and out of chimneys. So that's presumably like his hat, right? But then when they crash with Santa, he does have magic. he can manifest toys, for example. He can read people's minds, like a demon would.
Yeah.
He has powers.
He is dressed in red, Dave. He's dressed. He's hundreds of years old, dressed in crimson leather. He is a demon.
Right. He is. Well, to the point
he has a whole thing where he's like, "Well, I'm technically not a saint."
Right. Yes, which I guess is true. I also love that he doesn't care if people know he's Santa. Like, he's just like, hey, I'm Santa. Hey, everybody, I'm Santa. Like, there's no secrecy to him. And he's just reading people's minds. Like, cops, random, like, people at restaurants
People
and
at
stuff.
a restaurant, yeah.
Which is weird that no one will help him, where he's like, I'm going to read all your minds. I need a car. And everybody's like, no, sorry, stranger.
Fuck you, Santa.
And it's like, surely you would ask some more questions about this stranger dressed as Santa who knows
seems
your
to
deepest
know
desires.
everything. Yeah, he's like Nostradamus in this restaurant.
But no one's interested.
When he gives that guy the Mickey Mantle card in exchange for his Porsche, and his wife rips the card in half, I gasped, Dave.
Right. Yeah, because she's like, oh, no. And it's like, who are you fucking people?
Right, like,
what is this?
Like, yeah, it's like, she's like, you're going to give away our Porsche? She's like, no, he's trading it to us for this mint condition Mickey Mantle rookie card. She's like, that's bullshit. She rips it in half. It's like, it's not worth a Porsche. I'm like, Google it, please. Like, what person in the world would think that a Mickey Mantle rookie card was not equivalent to a Porsche? It's like, no, that's couple $100,000 right there.
There's only one version of events that makes her the good guy there, is that if this is like the fifth fake rookie mantle card that he's traded their car for.
Yes.
And she's like, not again. No, never again. Yeah.
No, you're getting that graded before we make the trade. Which, totally reasonable request. He could have just printed that out at home.
Yes. And then Santa blackmails the bartender.
Yeah.
Being like, I'll tell the cops that you're a car thief if you don't let us use your car that you stole. It's real weird. And then, and they get in a car chase with the cops. And then he gets stuck in jail. And the whole thing is we have to get his hat. And then once he gets his hat, he goes out the vent of the jail. I mean, he convinces the cop to let him out too. It takes the cop a lot of convincing.
Yeah, a lot
despite literal magic happening.
Yeah. I think the answer to I think I know the answer to the question you're building up to. So
yeah, and so the reveal is he doesn't have the hat on at one point, and he gives someone his hat.
He gives Teddy the hat at the end. Yeah,
yeah, and they're like, but you need it to fly, and he's like, no, I don't, and he can fly, and they're like, oh, it was all along you could have flied, but like Christmas is in peril in this movie and stuff. So my question is like, did he allow Christmas to be in peril so he could teach these kids a lesson?
I think so. He keeps looking at his little wristwatch, his little diver's watch that tells him how much Christmas spirit is left. And Christmas spirit's real low. So I think part of his mission is like, and part of why he doesn't really care too much about people seeing him and knowing he's Santa is because he needs people to believe in him.
That's true. He is trying to push Christmas spirit at the time.
He's trying to convince people to believe in him, which is why I think he screws around so much at the police station, because he wants this cop to believe in him again. And I think, obviously he probably couldn't have foreseen that the kids would jump into his sleigh and cause him to crash. But I think, obviously he knows who everyone is on site and knows like their story.
Right. So I think he could presumably know the future.
To an extent, yeah.
Yeah.
So I think he saw these kids and was like, oh, this family is in crisis and they need me. They need this. So he lets them go on this journey, which at the beginning of the movie, the mom says, all I want for Christmas is for you two to get along.
Yeah.
So this whole movie is about the brother and the sister coming back together after they've been estranged because little sister Kate loves dad, worships dad, loves Christmas, and brother's all the opposite. He's angry at dad. He resents Christmas because of dad. And so it's about them coming together again. And I think the idea that we're supposed to take away is that Santa saw that and was like, well, okay, I'm going to let them go on this adventure, even though I can fly at any time I want to. Obviously, I'm magic as fuck. But they need this.
Yeah, I'm almost thinking of it like a side mission in a video game. Like Like, all right, so he needs Christmas spirit to be up. And obviously the easiest way to do that is everybody gets their fucking gifts. But maybe it's kind of like when you play Phasmophobia and you're like, okay, we haven't figured out who the ghost is, but we did do all these other goals and that's just as good. Like maybe the idea of like convincing an adult cop that Santa exists, maybe that's big old points.
Like, a grizzled, divorced Chicago cop.
Yeah, convincing them
that's got to be the brass ring of believing in Santa.
It must be, yeah.
Like, convincing that dude that Santa is real.
Right. Because I really want to point out what's at stake here. And because the meter, this Christmas spirit meter is down into the last moment. So I'm not sure if what we're saying works there, but when people lose their Christmas spirit, the Dark Ages happen. That's the last thing that happened. He is now in the modern United States, a country with nukes. You don't want them to lose their Christmas spirit, right? Like, that's real dark if that happens. Like, there's a lot at stake here for
I don't
Santa.
know if you've heard, Dave, but there is a war on Christmas.
Yeah, there is.
And
right.
Santa's got to do his part.
Exactly. It just feels like, don't fuck with America's Christmas spirit. If the last time people lost Christmas spirit, the Dark Ages happened. You don't want to know what's going to happen.
Yeah.
You know,
there's real dark.
Yeah. There's a lot in the balance is my point. Yeah. Sorry, I'm scrolling through my notes now. And those kidnappers were really fucked up.
Yeah, I don't know what their plan was. They saw. I did like that. There's three of them, and there's one guy in the back who, at one point, is like, this is not like verbatim, but at one point, he's like, "What are we doing?"
Yeah,
like it's like, why are we like hassling the 17-year-old for his bag full of gifts? Like,
it's really weird.
I feel like we have better things to do.
They split up, right? At one point, Santa sends the little girl into the streets of Chicago to find the reindeer. And I liked that. I liked that they even say, like, isn't that irresponsible? I wanted more of that. I wanted more, like, shitty Santa who's, like, risking these kids.
Right. He's a little seat of his pants. Like, he's kind of grizzled. He's Kurt Russell. He is 100% Kurt Russell as Santa Claus.
Absolutely killing it, by the way.
Yeah, he really is. Also, I love that he just looks like McCready. He just looks like McCready with a snowy white beard. Like, it's the same beard and hair. It's just fucking McCready in a Santa suit.
It's pretty great. Yeah. It's the girl goes into the sack. That's what happens. Yeah. And I like this idea that his bag is a portal back to his workshop.
It's like a pocket dimension. Yeah, that was actually really cool. That was a cool idea. Yeah.
I like the little sci-fi stuff they did with Santa.
Yeah. I genuinely like when movies have fun with Santa, like have fun with the idea of magic and all the different parts of the legend. Like, I think that's a fun way to make a Santa Claus movie.
Right. And the one thing none of them do, and I've been waiting for, is like at the end of this, I legit thought he was going to wipe their memory because he was going to be like, no, this is about faith.
He's going to Men in Black them.
Yeah. And then it could be like, well, why do you think I exist and no one believes in me? Because no one remembers. Like, that's that one universal Santa plot hole, right? Which is, why do the adults not believe in Santa when Santa is bringing them gifts every year? And you can attribute it to like a Lovecraftian, like, you know, like their memory, like it's their memory gets erased.
Yeah. Well, you said Lovecraftian. It's like that's what they did on South Park to explain Kenny.
Oh yeah.
Everybody just doesn't remember all the times he's come back to life.
Right. And so like you'd think, I don't know, I thought they'd explain that here. I don't know why I needed it explained, but I liked the idea of someone covering all the Santa plot holes. You know, I still don't quite believe they were able to deliver all those toys, Tom.
No, what's really funny is like they're down, so it gets to the end and they're like, oh, I've only got an hour left. It's not enough time. And then Teddy and Kate are like, well, what if we help you? And it's like, oh yeah, that just might work. Teddy, you drive. Kate, you throw me the presents and call out the addresses and I can slam dunk them into the chimneys. And it seems to take longer with them involved. Like, it takes 3 times as long adding these other two people.
Because they're humans. They don't have any magic.
Yeah.
And he has to learn to drive. It really does seem like, I don't know, man. Unless, like, the only Santa has to stop time, right?
All right, okay, I'm I think I just stepped on my own rake. Okay. I think this is part of it, right? Like, this is part of Santa's the gaming them, right? Like, I think he's bullshitting that he can't do it in an hour. Of course he can.
You're probably right.
Because, like, he gets Teddy to drive, and then when Teddy's stuck on the L about to crash into a train, he's like, you need to believe. And he's like, I do believe in you. He's like, no. You need to believe in yourself the way that your mom believes in you and your sister believes in you, the way that your dad believed in you. So I think this is still part, like, it's forcing them to work together and to be friends again. So I think this is part of his the gaming them.
Right. And like, I guess it makes sense if you think of Santa as like, he's not one person, but like an entity. Like he has tendrils everywhere, because maybe the idea, because they only hit up the big cities.
Dave. He is an elder god.
Because they only hit up the big cities too, or at least that's what they show us.
That's the only things that we see. Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm wondering if like, maybe that's what he did. He just took them on a little tour. Meanwhile, the other, like his other powers are just planting. Like it's if Santa's this fucking powerful, it's weird to think that he would have to physically go to every fucking house. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So it's like, maybe it's more of like, you know, the manifestation of gifts that Santa wills upon us.
Yeah.
As opposed to this fucking guy. Like, this is like the Mickey Mouse. He's the mascot of Santa. But like Christmas as an entity is so much bigger than him. So he's like taking these kids on their little fun little bullshit Santa journey while the real work is getting done behind the scenes, I assume.
Yeah, probably.
Maybe by those elves. Did one of the elves try to chainsaw a guy's dick?
Yes, he tried to chainsaw Teddy's dick.
Right, it was Teddy's dick because they thought he was one of the criminals.
Because he's on the naughty list. But yeah, it was interesting that one of the elves was just a full-on chainsaw maniac.
Yeah.
And was just going to fully chainsaw this teen boy.
Yeah, it was going to be like Scarface up in there. Like, he was ready to fucking like chainsaw this kid in half.
He was not only ready, Dave, he was hype. He was turgid.
Yeah,
he was rock hard.
He really was.
He was pitching a tiny little elf tent.
Yeah.
Slicing this kid up with a chainsaw.
Yeah, that was pretty fun. Yeah. Again, it's like they needed to lean more into that, I guess.
Yeah, I think so. I agree with that.
Yeah, because as fun as we're having talking about this this movie, I still feel like there was a lot missing. Like, I do feel like there was something missing from the adventure itself. Because again, the adventure is just, we're in downtown Chicago. Okay, now we're not. That's it. Like, they crash in Chicago, they get his shit. The kid is, again, series of bits. So the kid is like kidnapped briefly by baffling criminals. Meanwhile, Santa, the whole thing with Santa is he gets interrogated by the cop. He pulls out all the gifts that the cop ever wanted. And the cop's like, didn't we frisk you? It's wild that the cop is letting him pull things out of his jacket in the first place without like getting freaked out.
Oh, he just frisked him. He just said.
Oh yeah, that's true. And then, but like, he's just like, whatever, you're like a Vegas magician. He locks him up. Then Santa gives the people in jail their instruments that they always wanted to. And they just start having a jam.
Yeah. They start playing a real fucking sexy Christmas carol, Dave.
Right, and I feel like that takes up like 10 minutes of the goddamn movie.
His collar suddenly pops open and he has an S necklace.
Right. And that's the shit where it's like, I don't know who this is for. I think it's for Kurt Russell.
I think it's for Kurt Russell, yeah. He was doing He was doing his Elvis impression during that.
You're right, he was. Mm-hmm. This feels like it was in his rider.
Yeah.
I
mean, they're not going to say no. It's like, well, if Kurt Russell's like, all right, I'll do it, but I have to have a musical number. Sure.
Right. Yeah. Fuck it.
Yeah.
Yeah. It felt like a Bruce Willis harmonica moment.
Yeah.
Where you're like, oh, you wanted this. And then meanwhile, the kids just get the bag, and then the bag almost gets thrown in a fire by the thugs. And then the elves come out and attack them all. And they go back and find Santa. And then they just leave Chicago. And that's most of the adventure. And then it's just a montage of them having to save Christmas.
Yeah.
It's a very weird, like, pacing wise.
The pacing is strange. Yeah. And
I think it really plays into like, they had like I don't know who wrote this. I don't know how many drafts there were, but it feels like it's like there were a few drafts stuck in this one.
Yeah,
because
it feels like a bit of a pastiche.
Yeah, because going back to like planes, trains, and automobiles, but Santa, I still kind of want that. Like I didn't get that. They gave me a taste of that in this movie, and it wasn't enough.
Yeah,
and I
think maybe they just didn't have the budget for it, so they really they really dwell on like 3 locations, and this you can feel that this is a very low budget movie.
Yeah, for example, I think Santa was too godlike. For example, he gives them directions in Chicago, and he's like, "I know every street." I kind of like the opposite version, where like they have to take the subway with Santa, and like he doesn't know customs. Like he still can read everybody's fucking hopes and dreams. But like, I like the idea of like a fish out of water Santa, right? Who doesn't understand the world. I think that would have been fun. As opposed to this Santa who knows all, who's there all kind of just doing whatever he wants, you know?
Yeah. I like both, but I do like the version that you're pitching as well. I do want to see a full movie of planes, trains, and automobiles with Santa. Where Santa is just like, oh, we must get back and save Christmas. And just somebody having to, like a Robert Downey Jr. or a Steve Martin, just having to fucking deal with this guy.
Right. like there's a bit where Santa doesn't have any money. And I was like, why didn't you got to bring some cash on you, Santa, in case this exact thing happens.
Right, because
I like the idea.
Like, he can whip out anybody's Christmas wish from his vest, right? Surely someone in the history of Earth has wished for cash.
Exactly. But like that reminded me of the idea of like, oh yeah, why would he need cash? He doesn't expect to crash. Like I like the idea of Santa the institution failing for the first time ever, and Santa being thrown completely off by it. And now that he's on the ground, like the idea that like Santa has spent his whole life fulfilling wishes, he's never actually like talked to a human, and like him having to suddenly become part of the world. I just thought that was a neat idea. But he's too perfect in this.
Yeah, he's like all knowing, and he's pretty omniscient, which is a separate idea from the one you're pitching, and one that I also like. Like I like this version of Santa having to deal with all this stuff, and then it turns out to be like, oh, it was all very purposeful. He's doing this to get people to believe in him again, and to help people out. But
it kind of has to be that in the end, because otherwise it's like, why is Santa? Why can't he solve this problem?
Why? Well, yeah. Why can't he just like use his fucking Jesus magic and solve this problem immediately? Yeah. But yeah, no, I like both versions. I agree with you that they committed more to the other version that I just explained, but they don't fully commit to any idea. They have a lot of cool ideas, and they don't really fully commit to any of them.
Yeah, I think it's the short game is a problem. Like the ideas here are very funny, and whenever they'd hit me, I'd go, "Oh, that's really clever. Oh, what a good idea."
Yeah,
but
the broad emotional strokes of the film, I think, work.
Yeah. Like you said, everybody getting an arc is important. That should be expected in most movies, but it's nice to see done well in this.
And I will say it was interesting that the movie is primarily from Kate's point of view, but it turns out that the main story, it's really about Teddy. It's really about Teddy's anger over his dad's death. And that's kind of a reveal. And I was like, oh, that's a cool idea.
Yeah, she doesn't have much of an arc.
Not really. She just wants her family to be a family again.
Yeah. Yeah, and she's a stupid kid. Why do they need kids don't have arcs? Like fuck it. That's pretty much my thoughts on this. I think it was good.
It was definitely a lot different than I was expecting, but it was also better than I was expecting.
Yeah, it was definitely better than I was expecting.
Yeah.
I don't know. I honestly don't quite know what I was expecting. I think I was expecting more of the elf side of it, of we're going to make this really for kids.
Yeah, I was expecting something really, really corny and saccharine, and I was expecting a Hallmark
Minions
movie.
Shit. Yeah. Oh, I wasn't expecting a Hallmark movie. I guess I was expecting that in between where it's like like, oh, we're for kids, but oh, parents can watch us too. We're kind of cool. That fake news line, though, this was made in 2018. It was like, if I had heard that in 2018, I would have been like, nope, shut your fucking mouth, Santa.
I winced this
Santa
time.
calls something fake. Yes, he calls something fake news in one scene, and it was like, nope, bad instinct.
It gets
Filmmakers.
They're doing a bit with the fact that obviously Kurt Russell is not a huge obese Saint Nick. He's Kurt Russell,
right?
And they're doing a bit where how he's like sort of exasperated over his depiction as this big fat guy, where he's like, man, I hit the gym every day, I stay away from carbs and sugar, and still this is just the image everybody has of me. I can't win. It does get a little fat phobic a few times, a little bit,
yeah. And I don't think that bit. Not because of necessarily the fat phobic side. It's more of just like, I don't know why he's so mad about this. It feels like an unnatural bit, if that makes sense. Like it felt a little weird and forced.
Well, yeah, it could have been if they wanted to explore this idea of like, because they do a little bit of the grounded Santa stuff, like I said earlier. So if they wanted to really like sort of explore the idea that Santa has this insecurity, I feel like they needed to do a little bit more work. Because it really just
do something where he's like, I lost the weight or something like that.
Yeah, because it really just comes off like Santa thinks fat people are gross.
Yeah. Yeah, and he keeps bringing it up. Like, it would have been fine if it was once, I guess. Because the idea is like, I don't do ho 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 either. But he doesn't spend the whole movie complaining about the ho ho ho. He just won't get off of it. And it's like, all right, calm down, Santa.
It comes up like once, or it comes up more than once. Not a whole lot, but maybe like 2 or 3 times that he won't say ho ho ho. But yeah, it's not as often as the fat stuff. But
and it again, none of it really felt good enough, like funny enough. That it's just like, just have him say it like once. It's fine.
Yeah, because like if they weren't gonna go into the really have fun or play around with the idea of like Santa's really like this is an insecurity of his,
right?
It could have just been one line where like like what you're saying, it's like, oh man, like I lost all, like I got a Peloton, like I lost the weight.
Again, there's a real sense of a series of bits where it's like, the characters have arcs, but there's no like setup and payoff or like really sense to the plot. It's just in this happen and then this happens and then this happens and then this happens. It feels like a series of sketches that they're going from one to the other in a lot of ways. So like the characters definitely have a thread, but the series of events felt like
they're pretty disconnected.
They're disconnected, and at no point do you feel like there's a problem because Santa can be as magical as he needs to be in any given moment.
And that's also a symptom of it being a Santa movie, right? Because the stakes are always the same. The stakes are always Christmas is in danger, and it's Santa.
Yeah.
You know he's going to save Christmas at the end because it's Santa.
Right.
So it's like we're never really concerned about that.
Yeah, I like having rules, I guess, right?
Mm-hmm.
And like Santa is a very magical being that I feel like they need to lay down the rules earlier. Because they are, the rules, and again, it's explained by like, it was all part of his plan.
We also all kind of know the rules of Santa.
Yeah.
I think this movie,
but again, they play with it like his sack, like his magic sack,
his magical sack. I think this movie they knew enough that Christmas being in danger couldn't be the only stakes. Like they knew enough that like, no, the family is the stakes
for sure,
but they didn't go hard enough on that. Like we were, for all the reasons we've already talked about with Teddy, like they should have gone harder with Teddy's character to really make us feel like this family was in jeopardy.
Absolutely. Teddy is a misstep, I think.
Yeah. So right idea, but not executed as well as it needed to be.
Yeah, which is the theme of this movie, I think.
Yeah.
You know what they should have done? They should have done Santa getting into chimneys like Tombs in the X-Files, where he like cracks his bones.
Yeah, where he just elongates his body, and it's fucking terrifying. What they need to do, Dave, is they need to make a fucking Santa Claus movie where Tombs is Santa Claus.
Yeah. Oh,
just
man.
all the same shit, except he's wearing a Santa hat.
This terrifying Santa
with his yellow eyes,
and
a Santa hat, making his little newspaper nests. Oh,
Roadkill.
if you guys aren't patron subscribers and don't listen to Fox Mulder is a Maniac, you might not know what the hell we're talking about. But it's
or
an
they listen to
X-Files
the
reference.
X-Files.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh man. Yeah. I don't know if I have anything else to say about this movie.
No, I think I'm all done.
Okay. Yeah, it's better than I thought. Not my favorite, but
No, but I'm
it's,
probably going to watch the sequel, like, just on my own now.
I'm curious. Yeah, fucking Goldie Hawn.
Goldie Hawn shows up in the end. I didn't know she was in
right
this
at
one.
the end.
Yeah.
Yeah, I knew she was in the sequel. Yeah, that was cool. That was cool to see.
Yeah, and Dead Dad is Goldie Hawn's son, Kate Hudson's brother.
No shit.
Yeah, Dead Dad is Kate Hudson's brother, Oliver.
Weird.
Mm-hmm.
Oliver Hudson?
Mm-hmm.
Jesus. It's a fine name. It's fine. Oliver, if you're listening, your name's fine. Listen, Harrison Millie, once again, thank you so much for being patron.
Yes, and congratulations.
Subscribers. Yeah, and congratulations on your festive wedding. I hope it's everything you want it to be. I hope no one gets a chainsaw in their balls. Again, unless that's what you want.
Yeah, unless it's what you wished for. Unless you wrote to
exactly.
Santa.
Yeah, asking for a chainsaw right
to the
in
balls.
tank. Yeah. But congratulations on getting married. And listen, everybody, this was through our Patreon, patreon.com/gamefullyunemployed. If you go on there for just $5 a month, you get access to a bunch of exclusive podcasts like Tom and Jeff Watch Batman, Fox Mulder is a Maniac, Star Trek The Next Futurama, and Spiel Boys. We also watch movies with our patrons every Friday night. That's available for a little more. And then we have custom We Just Watched episodes, custom podcasts. So check it out.
Yeah. We also have a store. Head over to gamefullyunemployed.com where you can find a link to our Teespring store where you have all kinds of cool original artwork and designs you can get on t-shirts, mugs, stickers, posters, all sorts of things. So slap your felonious Christmas peepers onto that.
Yes, and enjoy the holidays, everyone. As what's his name? Saint Nick. As Saint Nicholas says, bazinga.